Welcome to Live with Liz. It's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, hump day. We are talking about social media today for law firms. And that is a beast of a subject. Like all of the subjects I try to tackle, I like to go into it head first. And there are a few things to think about with social media. I know it is not lost on me that I am preaching to a choir here because Buenos dias, Evangelina. Everybody who is watching this video is somehow engaged in social media. And you've at least got enough engagement to find a live stream. Good morning, Mariana. Great to see you too. I am so excited to be talking about social media because I'm passionate about it. I love social media, people connecting and being able to connect despite a global pandemic. Love it. When it comes to law firms and lawyers, a lot of you, bon dia, a lot of you probably know that law firms and lawyers have been more reluctant to adopt social media strategies than companies and the general public, or than maybe you use in your personal lives. There are a lot of reasons for this. Lawyers are risk averse. Law firms don't like to take on risk. And there's, the technological change, adaptation, a lot of different reasons there. And then when I come into the picture, I like to try and justify why law firms and lawyers should be strategic about it and should be on social media. And then maybe go further and work together to see how you should be there. So there are two things that I kind of think about to justify the investment of law firms and lawyers in social media and the presence there. And the two things are, one, on the one hand, your clients have to be there. And if you're in intellectual property, as much of my circle is, a lot of the services you provide touch on social media anyway. Maybe you're doing advertising and regulatory work. Maybe there's intellectual infringement work that's happening on social media. You have to be cognizant of the publicity and image rights, copyright violations, all of the crisis communication and fallout and maybe lawsuits and litigation that might come about because your clients have to be there. If you're advising and providing legal services related to social media and you're not in social media, I know firsthand how difficult those conversations can be with clients who are trying to explain to you what's happened. Someone stole my hashtag and someone's using my picture, and it's happening because they uploaded it to this and they're using the AdWords behind it, and I know that. And the lawyers kind of have a blank stare or a good game face and don't really know what they're talking about, but still want to provide the legal services around it. So when I'm looking for counsel on the corporate side, and if I'm working with a corporate who needs counsel in social media, I'm going to look for those law firms that have a presence in social media, that are engaged, and that I believe understand how social media works and why it's important. So to that end, all of these different social media channels, especially the more popular ones that we know about, are like markets. They're like jurisdictions unto themselves. If you've got 1 billion plus users on Facebook, that is a place where your companies have to be, and they're selling. That's a whole different type of law that they're dealing with, commercial law and sales of products and all sorts of other liability issues that come along with it, all through social media. It bridges the gap between borders of actual jurisdictions to grow into something much larger. So hopefully that by itself, that your clients have to be there, convinces you that it's essential to your law firm's business, and as a lawyer that you should be present, have knowledge of it, and be able to use it. On the other side of this, remember I said there were kind of two broad reasons that I like to use to justify the social media investment. On the other side is, wow, there's a global pandemic and you really need to grow your business. You need to communicate and engage with your target clients and your potential leads and your community. And how do you do that? And social media is the tool. It's best. It's how you do it. So you can get brand awareness, create positioning for your brand. You can get credibility for your services. You can engage with potential clients and promote your firm. I understand that there are regulations that prohibit certain types of advertisement. In many places, though, it's become the norm, and as educational channels in some places, I'm shouting at you at India, I get it. So an educational channel, if you will, or perhaps it is truly okay now for you to have this presence and engage with people, and provide the disclaimers that you need to disclaim to have these communication channels open to you. So on the one hand, you've got all of your clients needing social media, and on the other hand, you've got this need to promote your firm. How? How do you do it? Social media, all these different channels, millennials, communication you don't understand, hashtags, oh my goodness, it's a lot. So you need to have a plan. You need to be strategic about your social media. What does your plan look like? Well, think about your audience. Consider that audience and create some goals. Do you want to grow your audience? Do you want to communicate a certain aspect of your services? Do you want to engage with people? All of these things are important as you create your plan. How frequently do you want to post? Which channels are you posting in? You want to look at your clients and look at your competition. Don't just go to their profile and see what they're doing. Measure. Go and look up their analytics, see who follows them, see what's successful for them, what's important to them, and then you can create your content and you can create a strategy around that to promote your firm, to learn more about social media, and to be more engaged. So talking about content and making that a part of your, the focus of the strategy for your firm. So content, how do you do it? So you've got a social media plan, got that strategy in place, and you know what you want to do, and then you need to shift over and focus on a content plan. So this can be a little tricky. I recommend in the beginning for creating meaningful, valuable content that is effective as part of your overall strategy, that you use certain tools to make it easier. You need to be using a content calendar. That content calendar does not have to be fancy. You don't have to pay for a tool and learn how to do it. You can use your regular calendar. Heck, you can even print one out on paper and write down what you want to post on a weekly basis or a daily basis if you want to. But have a calendar. You need to be able to do that. It's just the very first step in keeping track. And then, of course, as you grow and post more, that calendar, hopefully you're not doing it on paper, will be more important as you try and organize all of the content, keep track of the different roles that people have, the frequency of your posts. I also strongly recommend using a social media management tool. I have my favorites. There are a lot out there that are good. Bonus, if your social media management tool combines with your CRM, then you can really create an effective strategy. Some social media management tools out there, very common ones. Hootsuite, very common. Sprout Social, also one that I like. It's very good. There are some others out there that are coming up. HubSpot, traditional CRM, also has social media management built in now. There are some others. Zoho Social is one that I like to use sometimes. I also like Buffer. It's streamlined, it's simple. You can post to multiple channels at the same time. You can customize for the different channels, but it keeps it organized, it keeps it clean, it keeps it in one place. And then another benefit of using that social media management tool is that you get analytics. You're able to measure what you're doing. You're able to understand where it is, how successful things are. You can often connect it to not just the multiple channels, but your CRM to see what kind of engagement you're getting, not just what kind of engagement overall, but engagement with categorized individuals who are targets, potential leads, current clients, and all that jazz. Once you have your tools in place, you've got your calendar, you're starting to get your concepts together, and you're starting to put together your content plan. What does that look like then? So when you're actually putting together your content, you have to think about the channel. This came up recently. A friend of mine posted in LinkedIn and said, you know, Facebook is for friends. This is kind of, yeah, Lunas IP, you just asked about the IP law business. Absolutely, we will get into this. The foundation of the social media is really important, but then for IP law firms and specifically, there are certain things to think about. And so once you get your content, and we can talk about this by channel, you want to think about where you're posting it. For IP law firms, the channel that is the most effective and the most prevalent is LinkedIn. But you have to also consider your clients. Your clients have to be using some other channels. There are some other things like generational gaps. A lot of millennials and Gen Z are all over Instagram. Video content is popular on some channels, but not on others. LinkedIn has groups, Facebook has groups, different countries have focuses on different channels. I learned in that conversation on LinkedIn with an IP group that in Russia, they ended up using Facebook because LinkedIn wasn't as prevalent or popular, or it was regulated out and they couldn't access it for a while. And then Facebook became more of a place to use it. For IP law firms, it's relevant to be where your clients are anyway. So that's one thing. But if you're talking about specifically communicating with other IP professionals, LinkedIn is the best bet. And then you have a lot of different groups available in these different places as well. That's on Facebook too. When you're planning these content pieces, you want to be strategic about the channel. You want to think about the text that you're communicating. You want to think about the links that you're using, your artwork, your hashtags, your mentions, and your ad campaigns. Maybe some of this is familiar to you. Maybe you think you know what it is, but there's a lot to it. Let's talk about hashtags for a minute. Hashtags work differently in the different channels. Hashtags also are popular for law firms in different ways. If you're looking at the legal community, there are hashtags that get you visibility to the legal community, that like hashtag lawyer, hashtag IP, hashtag intellectual property. That may be important for you as an IP firm, but if brands are your clients and companies are your clients, you probably want a hashtag strategy that speaks to that audience and not necessarily to the IP community. You probably, though, also want to consider a mix, because a lot of IP work and a lot of law firm work comes from other law firms, especially when you're doing international work. So you've got a lot of things to think about when you're creating your content strategy about where you want to be, what the message is, who that message is for, your call to action, what links you're including, what is that call to action, what does that engagement look like? Okay, so I got another question. It is, how do you grow your audience? That's a good question. And there are different tips and tricks for each different channel out there. So there are two broad ways, actually. You could pay to grow your audience. Don't do that. Don't pay to grow your audience. You're a law firm. You're better than that. You want to grow your audience organically. It's important to do that because your audience will engage better with you. They'll be targeted. It will be more meaningful. The content you provide will be more valuable when it comes to speaking about the firm and the firm's positioning. So what do I mean when I'm talking about the firm's position? I'm talking about your credibility in the marketplace, what you become known for, the services that you're providing. There are just a lot of considerations when you're looking at the message that you're providing and who it's going to. And when you're providing messaging that's on target and it's meaningful and it's valuable, that's how you start to organically grow your audience. It's not just that, though. You have to also be engaged. So as an IP law firm, you can go and participate in these conversations that your colleagues are having, that your clients are having, and that will also help you grow your audience organically. Another really important aspect of being successful on social media, and I say this over and over, consistency is key. You don't want to just post one day and then let a few days go by and post another day and just sporadically have posts, sometimes a month apart. You also don't want to have outdated links on your website. You don't want to provide information that is stale or off message. And there are some other policies that you might want to consider in today's world. People are having conversations in every place possible about politics, about the environment. If that's the kind of law that you're servicing, there's probably a voice for you in those conversations. But if not, you really need to think about the heart of what you're doing and the value of the information you're providing so that it's on point, relevant, and actually does help grow your audience. And like I said, each channel has different tips and tricks. Over the coming weeks, we'll revisit some social media topics. We'll talk specifically about certain channels as they pertain to law firms. And I hope that you found this topic valuable as a starting point for getting a social media strategy together and for doing some content planning. I would love to help you with it. This is my wheelhouse. And if you have questions offline, send them to me at solutions@firmforward.com. Also, announcement, just a quick one here. Firm Forward is relaunching, and this series is a part of growing my own audience so that for the relaunch, we can be excited about the new services we're offering and the new ways we're providing services. Stay tuned, save the date. September 15th is the relaunch of Firm Forward, and all of you are invited to join me. I hope to see you next week on Live with Liz. Take care, everybody.